good to see faces. We just went mask optional here nationally, actually, on April 1st, so it's good to see everybody. Kristen's going to introduce our program and our speakers, who we're very thankful to have here today. Next month and the month following, that first Wednesday in May is the 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah. So on May 4th, we're going to have Spence Broadhurst and William Buster, at least Spence, come talk to us about the endowment. We'll have a closed space where we can ask them questions and hopefully learn more about how all that's going to work. And then on June 10th, especially a Friday, we're going to have our special half-day session with Brian Sabers. So that's something everybody will be a part of. So keep your eyes peeled for communications on that soon. And with that, Kristen, I'll let you introduce our.
Can I say where those were? Did you say?
At the Harrelson Center.
Yes.
For
Both of them. Yes. Both at the Harrelson Center. And if that changes, you'll know as soon as we do.
It's not changing.
It's not.
Well, we are excited to have Chrissy and Chelsea with us this morning. And as we thought about different programs for the year on the program committee, obviously social media and web are something that lots of us dabble in, but don't really have time to become experts in. And so years ago, Jill Harrington, who wasn't able to join us this morning, got me in a conversation and was talking about how much more we could do with LinkedIn. And she's director of recruiting for nCino, and it really got my wheels spinning about how we live in kind of a pocket that makes sense, but is often, Facebook and Instagram, and as nonprofits, we don't think about, or we don't have the time and energy to think about what more we could be doing fairly simply, but that isn't top of mind for us. And so when we were brainstorming sessions, I thought about that conversation with Jill, and reached out to Jill and Chrissy. And nCino to say, what, would you want to come share with us your expertise and your perspective on social media from the work that you do? So they were excited to jump on board, and Jill wasn't able to be here this morning, but we're excited to have Chelsea, who also works in recruitment. So, yeah, I'm excited they're here. Thank you both for coming and sharing your expertise with us. And there will be plenty of time for questions at the end, so as you're processing and your brains are spinning, I would love to get into more conversations when they're done presenting.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us today. There will be time at the end for questions, but if you have questions throughout, feel free to interrupt and let us know if anything you want to know more about something. Preferably not less, because we're on stage and that would be a little bit awkward. But as Kristen said, I'm Chrissy Hennessy. I'm the Associate Manager of Social Media and Communications at nCino. We really like long titles at our headquarters.
And I'm Chelsea Jones. I've been at nCino going on 6 years in July. Started off in more of an inside sales role and then realized pretty quickly I love to sell the culture. This is the easy part. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks, that's a great reminder. I've been at nCino for about 4.5 years and have been running our social media platforms the whole time that I've been here. I also do a lot of work in communications, mostly internal corporate communications, but some PR, that kind of stuff too. There we go. Okay. So today, as Kristen said, we're going to focus a lot on LinkedIn, but because I know everybody is sort of in a different place with their organization and maybe has a different size team or different experiences, we're going to kind of touch on a lot of the different platforms, paying special attention to LinkedIn. So by the end of this today, I hope you'll have some great tips to level up your accounts, to help develop great content to promote your cause, to manage your platforms efficiently with some free tools, because I know free is always within the budget, and to update your personal LinkedIn profiles to kind of help use those accounts to promote your cause and promote yourself. So that's sort of our lay of the land. So as everyone mentioned, that Chelsea and I work at nCino, which is definitely a for-profit company. We're not of the nonprofit world, though we often work with nonprofits through involved in a lot of our corporate activities. I know when I heard you all saying your organizations, we partnered with a lot of organizations in this room, which is really great. to hear. So a lot of the challenges and also the opportunities that y'all face are different from what we face. Some of them are challenges, like I said, and some I think are definitely opportunities. So I think one thing that is really unique about nonprofits versus for-profits is the kind of relationships you have with your audience. Chelsea and I, well, you sell the culture too, which is great, but we also sell, banking software. Which a lot of people aren't like, I just love software, especially banking software. I want to follow this account and just like be part of that world. It's a thing they need. So they're not following us because they're passionate about what we do or the services we provide. And I know that nonprofits often have limited budgets. You also tend to serve a smaller community. We're a global company, so we have to really be mindful of the content we share in that level. And y'all often have to think about the local communities and who you're serving here. And I think you probably tend to have smaller social communications teams. How many of you have like one person doing everything? Yeah, okay. How many of you are that person? I will say at nCino, like a global corporate publicly traded company, I'm also that one person. I have like an intern that helps me, so I do feel your pain.
Out of 1,300 people, by the way, so we get it.
Yeah, we're trying to get another role in there, but it's gonna take a while. So yeah, those are just some of the ways that nonprofits are different from profits. But you're also not that different. So nonprofits, for-profits, basically every organization or company that's on social media is relying on the power of storytelling to get their message across. Stories tend to focus on the individual, so I know even at nCino, we try not to talk about ourselves too much. We really try to focus on our customers, our candidates, the individuals that we're kind of serving and helping. We're all trying to build awareness of whether it's a product or a cause, and we're all using the same toolbox. So we're all on LinkedIn, we're all on Twitter, we're all on Instagram. We all have the same basic tools that we're using. Just depends like how much time and energy and money we have to pour into them. So I hope that a lot of the tips today and examples I share from nCino and our experiences will be, help you all too. So this is actually a slide I use a lot in when I talk about like our social media strategy and how we use it. So when you're starting to develop your social media strategy, thinking about how you want to use it, there are a couple different goals that you can have, and I think it's always good to know kind of your goal when you're starting out with a social media strategy, or even when you're just reevaluating your strategy. You want to always kind of showcase the value your organization provides. You want to be able to tell your story to your community. You want to build awareness around the cause that you are fulfilling or serving. And of course, you want to drive traffic to events, resources, and those ever important donor pages. And social media can help you kind of do all these things. So when I say choose your goal, you don't have to choose just one. Probably you're going to choose all four and kind of alternate through them over the course of a week or a month or a year. But just kind of knowing what you're doing is a great way to start. And then also you can pick your platforms. So there are a lot of social media platforms. These are kind of the main 5. I have to think about that because as nCino, we are not on all these platforms. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you we're not on TikTok. We'll never be on TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. It's okay. You can be a professional social media person and like stay in your lane. And I think that's really great advice because the thing you definitely don't want to do when you're thinking about your organization is to join everything and then not update anything because you're overwhelmed. You want to pick maybe 2, maybe 3 tops that you can really dedicate the time to growing those communities. I think one of the worst things I see is when I go to an organization's account and it's just like, hasn't been updated in 3 years. Mm-hmm. Those orphan accounts are just, they're bad, So I think the important thing is to think about what platforms can you actually post regularly to, can you create content for. So I won't read all of this, but you might think about the kind of stuff that you do at your organization. If you have a lot of corporate sponsors that you work closely with, LinkedIn might be a great place for you because you can tag those corporate sponsors when they're a part of something, they'll see it. I know when nCino works with different places like Warm or, I'm trying to think of anyone else in the room, Glow. I know a lot of times I'll see that those accounts have tagged us and I can like it or share it and kind of help, gain some visibility for those accounts. If you're a really visual organization, like Cucaloris, I'm sure you guys are on Instagram, that might be a great place to kind of promote that kind of stuff. So kind of think about what you have and then let that guide kind of the platforms that you pick. If you're on TikTok, bless you. Maybe you can give me tips afterwards.
I might want to reserve some time at the end of that.
Yeah.
Good school list.
But also, if you serve teens, that might be a place where you have to just buckle down and do it, because that's where the teens are right here. I don't know, the teens don't talk to me much anymore. So again, once you pick out your platforms, you figured out like, okay, I need to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and maybe a little bit of Facebook, even though I hate it. This is exactly what we do at nCino. Think about your why, so return to those goals. Think about what your goal is, what you're trying to do, and just kind of think about how those specific platforms can help you do it. And again, that involves knowing your target audience. So again, if you are with the teens, bless you, get on TikTok. If you're really focused on corporate sponsorship, LinkedIn is a great place to be. If you really love to share quick stats and information, Twitter's a great place for that. If you do a little of everything, you can do a little of everything as long as you can keep up with it. Create a schedule you can stick to. I would say for our accounts at least, we probably post 2 or 3 times a week to LinkedIn. We're very active there just because we are so focused on sales and recruiting, and those are like kind of the 2 biggest things we do on LinkedIn. And then Instagram, we post maybe once a week, and we use Instagram not for selling software, because again, people don't log on to Instagram to buy banking software. If they do, they're not buying it from us, they're buying it from some weird Instagram like direct-to-consumer thing that probably is pastel, we don't need to talk about that. But we really use Instagram for recruiting and culture and kind of behind-the-scenes life at nCino, so that really becomes a tool, thinking about the different tools and how we use them. LinkedIn is used for selling software, for branding, for getting job applicants, and then Instagram is really used for culture, behind the scenes, kind of creating goodwill among our 1,600 employees. Yeah.
Would you recommend not just simply cross-posting all your content to all the stuff?
Okay. Yeah, I do not recommend that.
That's what I thought I heard you saying, and so.
Yeah, and I think I have a slide a little bit about, it's the next slide actually. Okay, so we'll get there in just a second. Yeah, I think you can definitely tell when someone has posted the exact same thing, because every platform has its quirks and is slightly different. Like, say you post a really long, beautiful thing to LinkedIn, you cross-post it to Twitter, and it's cut off at 280 characters. Ooh, that's bad, because you've not used the platform the way it's meant to be used. So you can use the same kind of content, but you definitely have to sort of tweak it so it looks good and is effective on that.
And really quickly, just on the whole Instagram part with nCino specifically, I haven't been here now, even 6 years ago when I was looking at employment at nCino, I actually, as much as I live, eat, and breathe LinkedIn in my career now, the first place I went was, outside the website, was Instagram. I wanted to peek at what they were doing day to day and what it looked like to work there. And so just from a potential employee standpoint, that's when Instagram, I feel like, really does become more relevant in our space. I imagine our space as well.
Yeah, and I think even if you're trying to get people to volunteer at events or something like that, that's a great place to kind of show those events in action. What does it look like to volunteer? I know a lot of people want to volunteer and get nervous about making that commitment. So being able to kind of show those events in action, the impact that you're having, people smiling and having fun, that's sort of like a great place to do that. Yeah, so when it comes to developing great content, again, you don't want to just blanket every platform with the same content. You really want to make sure you're tailoring it a little bit and having a bit more, making it unique and tweaking it. So I would say no matter what platform you're on, a strong visual is going to be a really big deal. Like even on LinkedIn, which seems like more of like a stale place, because it can be a little bit stale. As someone who spends like half their day on LinkedIn, those images will stand out even more on LinkedIn. So whether it's an infographic that you've created, an image of your volunteers, I will say pictures of people's faces tend to do better than even the most beautifully designed infographic. We have a creative team that will make us like these great, super visual, striking images with these like cartoon people in them, and then I'll post that side by side with like just a picture someone took on their iPhone at like
The beach cleanup or something.
And that will, those engagements and views will go through the roof, and the thing that painstakingly our professionals designed will just like,
hours worth of work.
We don't tell them that, we just say thank you for that great image. We'll use it again next time, I don't need it anymore. So yeah, a strong visual, the more that you can get pictures of your employees, your volunteers. I know sometimes you need to get release forms and things like that, but it's definitely worth it when it comes to your content and the images that you can share. I know this is probably your bread and butter, considering who you are and who you serve, but if you're able to offer value to your audience with every post, so I know we always think about the call to action. So we never just make a post and move on with our day. We want to make sure there's always something that they can do after they see the post. Because for us, the goal, and for you, the goal isn't just to get like 1 million social media followers or like go viral or be really popular locally. Those are all just like perks. But ultimately the goal is to educate people, to offer them opportunities to take part in your organization, to connect your audience with each other. So make sure you have that in it. It might be a link to the donor page. It might be a link to download. It might be a poll question where you're trying to get feedback from people. You can do polls on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just any opportunity you have to kind of learn from and teach the people that you are connecting with. Oh, yeah, and also you can use social media to start conversations. So another thing I always tell people, and I encourage this when I do our trainings, I always tell people, don't just like sign on to your LinkedIn or your Twitter once a day, post something and then log off. Like, it's just like you shouting into a megaphone rudely at people and then leaving. No one really likes that. It's sort of weird, it's self-promotional. I mean, we're all self-promoting on social media, but we don't want to look like we're self-promoting. So like, ask those questions, use polls, invite feedback, make sure anything you're doing is hopefully starting a conversation. The more people engage with your content, the more likely they are to like things, respond to things, the more they'll just be a part of that community. So I think if you look at it as another way to start conversations and a community, it makes it more fun, and it makes it just a better experience for everybody. If you get messages and feedback, reply to them. This again can take a lot of time and energy, especially if you're a one-person show or you have a small staff, but just carving out maybe an hour a week to respond to everything that comes through is really great too. If the worst thing is an abandoned profile that hasn't been updated in 2 years, the second worst thing is a bunch of comments that no one's responded to. Because again, it just shows that you're not engaged in this online community. So you like to think of your online community as like an extension of your physical community. Like if you were in person and someone said something to you, you wouldn't just like walk away. You probably maybe after 2 years of pandemic you would walk away. We forget how to speak, but it's better to speak. And I would also say plan for the possibility of negative feedback, because again, we're a software company and that's not too controversial. We don't get a ton of negative feedback. We do get some here and there. But you know, I think depending on what world you're in, you might have more of that. So just having like a policy ahead of time. You know, what is the PR policy? What do you say to people if they yell at you or angry about something or make weird accusations? Sometimes you don't want to reply at all to some of those, but sometimes you do want to have just like a sentence or two that you're ready to go. Any questions about content? I think it's funny that I made this slide and talked about strong visuals, and this is like the most boring slide. Yeah, like bad example of what to do, but yeah, I know this is like a lot for one slide. Any questions just about content development in general?
Well, so to kind of piggyback on Stephanie's question, a lot of times like I'll take my content, but then I just repackage it. You know, being small shops, and so making sure like, you know, if I'm posting on LinkedIn or on Instagram, it would say like link in bio and not trying to just like put my link in.
Yes.
So I mean, is that something you recommend?
Yes. Oh wait, and the next slide.
Sorry, you said next slide last time.
That's great. No, you have a couple tips for that in just a second. Yeah.
So I have a question about the actual content. So I get Twitter is whatever, 200 characters.
Yeah.
To me, I've noticed LinkedIn seems to have a lot longer of a story versus an Instagram or a Facebook. Do you have thoughts on that, suggestions?
Yeah, we've experimented a bit with that because you can write like all day long on LinkedIn. I don't know how many people like to read all day long on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think shorter is better when it comes to almost everything. Just because you have the space doesn't mean you have to use it. And you might have noticed if you spend time on LinkedIn, a lot of people do like the weird line breaks and they write like these strange stories that are really boring, but because they use line breaks, they think they're suddenly interesting. We don't do that. But yeah, I would say like whatever you need to get your point across, but you know, the shorter that you can be, the more likely you are to catch someone's eye and not have them like read 3 sentences and then just be like, oh God, what is this? There's places where you can do longer form content, and I kind of think social media is where you get more of those bite-sized pieces and put them on there. Yeah, great question. Yeah.
So I've noticed the same thing where you can take like a terrible photo of some volunteers, or you can have a highly designed graphic and the graphic gets like no attention and the like terrible quality, volunteer photo does. Do you have any, there are sometimes though where you don't have a photo for an event or for something like that, and you do need to design a graphic.
Yeah.
Are there any tips on how to make the graphic more compelling?
Yeah, should have brought our creative team here, but I think towards the end, I do mention, I don't know if you ever use the tool Canva.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's the greatest tool in the world. If our creative team is busy, or if I'm doing something on my own, I've used that website a lot, and they have a lot of built-in templates that can really save you time, and I mean, they're gorgeous. So that would be like my number one tip, which you're already probably doing, so sorry.
Dang it, I thought you maybe had a solution.
That's what I do when the teams are so busy, because even though we have 1,300 people across the map, I have taken photos, not that we want to be dishonest about the event itself, but I have kind of like an archive of things that I can like recycle. She's cringing at that part.
No, I'm not.
I'm not like promoting the same photo 6 times a week or a month, but I love having those in my virtual filing cabinet to be able to promote those things. So it's not just text, so it's easy to digest and hopefully grab the attention of others.
Yeah.
Do you ever take content down if it doesn't get enough interaction and then repost it at a different time?
I don't usually take it down, but I will repost things.
Okay.
Because social media, all the platforms move very quickly, and chances are if it didn't get a lot of engagement or views, probably not a lot of people saw it. So you can just post it again, and then you're not kind of losing some of that data that you got the first time around. Yeah, and if I do repost things, I will tweak the wording or something just so it feels a little bit different. I was going to say about images, you're using them, don't worry, I do that all the time. Especially after 2 years of the pandemic and everything was virtual, we had no photos of anything. Like, and there's only so many times you can post like a screenshot of a Zoom meeting. Like, April 2020, that was charming and weird. By like April 2021, people were just like, I don't want to look at a screenshot of Zoom anymore. Please get me away from this. So, as someone who runs our social media, especially our Instagram, I was reusing photos. I was really scraping the bottom barrel there. Which now when we do have in-person events, as they're starting to ramp up, I'm just that obnoxious person with my camera getting as many photos as possible. Because I want to have this treasure trove that I can go back to. So if you're starting small, I would say just any chance you get everyone to get photos, get them afterwards. Anyone who's at the event, ask them for the images they got. Like, you never know kind of what you'll have and when you'll need them.
Do you have to tell people they're all photos? You act like they're this years when they're really 2 years ago?
Oh, no, you don't. No, if you're using old photos, just use old photos. No one
don't say anything.
I don't. Yeah, we just use them. It's fine.
Oftentimes you take multiple photos for an event anyway, and you'll probably only really post 1 or 2 of those over the course of 6 months. So to have those extra ones from that event, I feel like you're just, using what you need to.
When you have multiple photo takers, what do you recommend as far as a place to gather them all?
Ooh, great question. We use a lot of weird tools.
I keep it simple. I have I'll be the first thing.
Yeah, what do
She's
you
the
use?
social media queen. I'm more in the recruitment world, and I take my documents, just put a folder for the event and the year, and kind of house them there. And I can go pull them. I can attach them to an email. I can put them in a post.
But what I'm saying is you've got, I'm at school, so if my teachers all take photos, they can email those obviously to me, but is there one place that you, we've done some with Google Photos and, is there any place?
Yeah, I would say for free tools, which free is always my first choice. I think Google Photos is great. You can create an album, a shared album that people can just send them the link to that. They can upload the photos. Dropbox is also a great tool. Same thing. I think it's a little easier it's a little more like old-timey looking, so people have an easier time navigating it.
It's date and timestamp.
Date and timestamp too, so you can kind of see that. But creating that shareable folder, making it accessible, and then sending it to the people who have the photos it's easier than asking people to email you photos or anything like that.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
They
In
don't
your
get
inbox,
anywhere.
yeah.
They get stuck in my email and.
Right.
Yeah, the photos were too big, the files won't send.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing a folder situation will save you a lot of time and
I just know if there was an app or anything that.
Well,
No.
so I would say like
Yeah.
whatever your team will actually,
That's
really
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
and that's like something I've always struggled with. Cause yeah, I'm like a Dropbox power user, and then I go to my last org and they're like, Dropbox what?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and our IT team just recently changed how we do everything, which has been, you know.
user adoption low.
I
put them in a document over my computer.
Yeah.
And we also use Dropbox, but that took a little bit of time. I know share file in my past life was a big thing, but I think that comes with cost. So, but I do know there are resources out there, and collecting early on always helps build up your, I hate to say filing cabinet, because we're all about not having a filing cabinet in this virtual
Your
software
cloud-
world. Yes,
cloud
your
file
cloud.
cabinet, yeah.
Filing cabinet.
When I was in higher ed, the campus photographers all used Flickr.
Oh,
They
yeah.
use Flickr.
Yeah.
And then we would just like, I was in annual giving, we would
Yeah.
we'd have a link to that. We couldn't edit them, but we would take the photos when we needed them.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh,
I
Flickr.
know our graphic team right now would be like,
I used to love Flickr. Yeah.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Question. Sort of like the zoom out sort of question. Just sitting here, I pulled up, I'm now following nCino on Instagram.
I got to post something today.
And I happened to look at a couple other Instagram accounts I follow, including ours, and one of the big differences between y'all's and all the other ones I just looked at is just there's a ton of people out there. It's people and events and what you're doing, and again, we just came out of a pandemic and that's tough, but it's not massive crowds of people. It's 3 people holding a surfboard and it's all this other things. So, you know, I'm not in communications here, but would you recommend any accounts maybe we in this room should be following to sort of not,
For like inspiration?
yeah,
Cool.
or steal ideas?
Yeah.
Call that inspiration.
Inspiration. We all borrow. Yeah, I think it really depends on what your organization does. So I know for us, you know, we're a cloud-based company and we have some competitors and places that we like to recruit from and things like that. So like a big one for us is Salesforce. We are built on the Salesforce platform. They're massive, like we're a big company, they're a massive company, like hundreds of thousands of people. They probably have like 50 social media people and 50 social media accounts. So I definitely follow them to kind of see the kind of content they're posting, and I don't like all of it, but I definitely get some ideas from them.
It's good to see what your competitor's doing, but on an additional layer, like from a recruitment standpoint. First place, I like to see what potential competitors are doing from an employment branding standpoint, and also on a business acumen level for me in recruiting. It's a recruiting podcast or it's another organization in another city and state. I just kind of want to see what they're doing and how they're attracting candidates. So it can be beyond just our software vertical or banking vertical. My suggestion there, and it might sound duh, but going into and looking around what other organizations in other cities and states are doing that may be similar to yours.
Yeah.
And that's a really good starting place, because I think it would look different for all of your nonprofits.
Yeah, and I think another great thing of the types of people to follow locally are just people that you want to get in front of. So I know like my personal Instagram, sometimes local organizations will follow me or businesses or things like that. Sometimes I'll follow them back, sometimes I won't, just depends on my mood that day. But it is great to kind of see, and then if they do follow you back, or if you're able to tag a local business or do it that way, that can be another way to kind of promote, you know, what you're doing and get in front of the local community a little bit more. I'm gonna skip ahead just a tiny. So getting back to this idea of repurposing with a plan. So yeah, I forget your name, but you brought up this great point. Yeah, so one thing that we do at nCino, we always just talk about how can we repurpose something. You spend a lot of time creating a piece of content or a document, or, and here we're gonna use the example of a case study. We write a lot of case studies to highlight our customers. We always think about how can we repurpose it for different platforms, for different uses. So you might start out with a white paper, a case study, something, I'm not sure what kind of things you guys create, everyone's different here, but you know, kind of like a bigger, meatier piece of work. And that's sort of like where we start, and everything waterfalls down from there. So first we write the case study, then we create a dedicated website page or a blog post, something where that piece of content can live virtually, that we can link to, direct people to. And that might be, sometimes we do a thing where they have to download, so like we'll have a preview of the paper or the case study, and then they have to download it, which gets us their information, which means we can then go sell them software. Or you can just have it sitting there, depending on whether you want to collect those email addresses. So once you've got your landing page, you've got your case study, you can send an email to your mailing list. Email is, people kind of forget about it as a social platform, but it is a social platform. Newsletters are having a big resurgence right now. People's inboxes are actually like the quieter place on the internet where you are invited into like their virtual home and you can kind of have that one-on-one conversation with people. So send an email letting them know you have this great new story, here's a link to it, would love your feedback. If the case study has a visual element, a picture, an infographic, you can post that to Instagram, and again, take out, like I think you mentioned, just a quote from the story, click the link in the bio to read the rest of it. If there are stats, you can tweet those stats out, again, each time with a link to this thing, this case study, this website page. And then maybe at the end of it, you start raising money on Facebook, if you can kind of use that story to hook people in. So again, when you think about your content and how you can reuse it, I always start big and get as small as you can with it. Think about the different ways the platforms work, the pieces that you can take out. Again, you don't want to post a whole long case study on LinkedIn, even if you're using line breaks. But you do want to put a little bit there, give people just a bit, just enough to get them, which your ultimate goal is to read the whole thing on your website. So how can you drive people back using these different platforms? So it's kind of like my big tip, recycle. And then here are just a couple free tools that can help. Again, like these are the basic ones, and I actually use these too. Again, we're a really big company, we're global. I love my Google Sheets. If they take them away from me, I will be sad. I like them too because you can share them with people. You know, if you have someone that you want to look at your content calendar, if multiple people are contributing to it, it's great to have a cloud tool that everyone can kind of update in real time. For those images and infographics, I love Canva. You need like zero creative talent to use it, which is a huge plus for someone like me. I can write all day long, but when it comes to images, I'm just like, what? If you want to schedule posts, I know a lot of you are not full-time social media people and you have a million other things to do. You want to just schedule everything for the week, have it post automatically, and then move on with your day. Buffer and Hootsuite are two really great tools where you can kind of get all that content in there, schedule it, and then make sure you come back and check to see if anyone replied or commented.
Hootsuite has a nonprofit pricing.
Oh, that is a great tip. Yeah. Awesome.
You have to apply.
Yeah, sure.
And if you only have one account, a lot of the basic, like just one account is free. So you can do a lot with the free level too. For scheduling Instagram, which is sometimes a little bit weirder, I think some of the other tools are now adding that option, but I like a tool called Later. You can save your hashtags, you can save captions, and just you can schedule things. And they still go over to your phone because they don't just completely post, but you just have to hit the button and then it posts. So you don't have to sit there and write a long caption on your phone, which I inevitably have typos in because I have fat thumbs. And then posted is better than perfect. I think a lot of people, when it comes to social media, they get caught up in, they want to make sure it's great, they want it to look absolutely perfect, they wait too long. I know this is a lot of what I do presentations for our teams to get them, they're like afraid to use LinkedIn because they're like, what if I say the wrong thing or post the wrong link or there's a typo? I'm like, there's a couple of things that you could say that would be terribly bad as a public company. But overall, like, the things they're worried about are not huge deals and no one will notice. And again, like, you're human, we're all human, your organizations are human. No one expects you to be absolutely perfect, and if they do, we don't care about them because they're rude. So I would say just doing your best and learning as you go is definitely like the best advice that I have. I would say even our social media from 4 years ago looks a lot different then than it does now. Growth is good. Yeah, so those are like my broad social media tips. And now Chelsea is going to give you guys some LinkedIn tips for your personal profile.
I'm obviously drinking the LinkedIn Kool-Aid now as a recruiter. but I was having a conversation earlier, and even outside of my employment with nCino, someone will mention something or an organization, and I find myself going into LinkedIn and looking that person up. And so I mention that because regardless of your vertical or what you support, I do think there's a growing presence there, and there's a lot to unlock on LinkedIn, whether it's shouting out your volunteers, your finding donor supporters, and also potentially your future employees. So yeah, I would stick with example A of being a little bit more professional and clear and friendly. We'll tap into what that looks like with Chrissy's beautiful headshot here. So here are just a few things of what we consider the quick wins on LinkedIn. You'll see at the top the cover photo. You're absolutely welcome to use your company's branded image, or it can be something more personal or beach photo. The main thing we want to drive here is that don't let LinkedIn generate these things for you, including the bio, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Make it yours. With the image there, we always promote more professional, look more friendly. We want it to be a good place, give out good vibes. Your name, of course, and then LinkedIn now has included an option to have your pronouns. We feel like it's a good idea to promote inclusivity. So that is out there for LinkedIn now. And in terms of the actual role, your role itself, you can take the professional route and actually put, we have very lengthy titles here at nCino. I too took that route. Or you can, for me, I could have taken the route of growing the nCino rocket ship, or we're hiring today, or finding awesome talent to join nCino. So you can kind of make it more actionable on your title if you want to do something different. And I always welcome, I don't know if you'll cringe at this, because again, she's the queen of social media, but you can go back and forth with that just to see, how you're feeling that week, or just to change it up a little bit.
Or if your goals change throughout the year, if you have a big fundraising effort at one point, you might want to put something about that right in the headline, because people see that first. If later on in the year you're just really want your title there because, I don't know, for whatever reason, you can go back and forth. I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, I noticed sometimes we'll have like peak hiring times throughout the year, and we'll look to kind of shift that title there. So an all-star about section. I'm the first one to say it can be pretty difficult to talk about yourself. And Chrissy has helped talk me off the ledge from social media, so I feel like I'm actually in the seat with you all, and have been many times throughout my 6 years here at nCino. We always encourage you to be a human being. That's probably what makes your businesses so great, because you're a human being, and we don't want your LinkedIn to feel completely stoic and stale. So we obviously encourage first person to speak about yourself in first person, and describing your role in your own words. So talk to us about what you do at your organization, what interests you, what makes it unique. Those types of things really help kind of craft that about section. For me personally, talking about bank software, like how can I make my role and my About Me section sound interesting? And we'll share some prompts to kind of brainstorm getting you talking about yourself and what your organization stands for. And then I think these are arguably the most important things here, is tying your goals in the About Me section to your organization's mission and the ultimate value, and kind of keeping those at the forefront of your mind when crafting it.
No?
So this was actually came across this, and I was like, this is beautiful. I'm sharing it with my team because we struggle with this. An example, just ways to brainstorm again to how to talk about yourself and overall what your organization does. I won't go through and read each of these, but I think they're good examples. So for us in our space, a good way for me to explain, especially in my sales world, I connect financial institutions with the technology that helps them provide the personalized experience customers and employees demand. Or in food banks scenario, I help feed my friends and neighbors in 34 counties through my work with the food bank. Short, simple, beautiful. I mean, that is a heck of a mission, right? I've read that, I'm like, wow, this person sounds awesome. I want to connect with them. So yeah, these are, I don't know if you want to share anything more there, but a helpful way to start thinking about how to talk about yourself.
Yeah, and again, like, it's just another way for you to promote your organization instead of promoting yourself, which I think a lot of people have trouble promoting themselves. When they think about it through the lens of the work they do with their organization, it can be a lot easier to talk about yourself.
Well, I love that you mentioned that too, because I think beyond just the recruitment scope, I table that for a second. You're the faces of your organizations, so a lot of people want to see. I heard this stat the other day. People primarily stay with their job because of their manager, and I look at it like if this is an opportunity for you to be the face of your company, and people are going to ultimately look at that profile to see who they be working with, what the type of people that are making up this culture.
Yeah, that's a great point.
All right, so I am definitely a big share when I'm lacking Chrissy's creative social media juices, but the glory in all of this is arguably maybe an easy way out, but if your organization has posted something like this, you can simply like or share and it will boost that visibility in LinkedIn, and so my connections can see that. There's other ways too. You can even add a little flair here. This is what we would encourage, to add a little color to it. Talk about why it's important to you. We feel like this is more impactful because generally the readers or viewers want to know why it's important to you in your organization. Talk to me a little bit more about why I should click that link or what I'm about to read. I fall victim to, I'm not always the most interested in a lot of words, so I don't click see more, but if I have a little bit of context at the top of that explaining what it has in store for me, then I will be more likely to dive in.
Yeah, and that flair too could also be an opportunity to start a conversation around that story or that piece of content, to ask your followers or your friends, what do you think of this, or, do you like me? I don't know. Just have a little bit of a conversation there.
Yeah. In addition to those, the beauty of this and what I think would hopefully be impactful in your space is that you can tag accounts. I spoke about this a little bit earlier around maybe you have a volunteer event and somebody was really involved in it, you'd like to shout them out. Well, that will actually boost that post in your organization and you potentially as the owner of that, and give their connections the visibility of what went down. So I know you have a great story you want to share about that too, but the glory of this is I think about donors, supporters, volunteers, and potentially your next employee, tagging them, kind of getting extra visibility there.
Yeah, and I think earlier we talked a little bit about how the different platforms are used, and I know a lot of you probably spend a lot of time on places like Facebook and Instagram because they're great fundraising tools and great ways to connect with individuals. I think LinkedIn specifically is a great way to connect with some of those corporate donors and some of those local businesses that you might work with or who are supporting your nonprofit. So being able to thank them as a sponsor, especially if you can do it like individually, because say nCino sponsored something along with 5 other people and all 5 people are tagged in the same post, I'll be like, especially if it's like a competitor or something, I'm like, well, I don't want to really amplify that because then I'm also amplifying my competitor, so I'll just like it. But if it's a post just about like how great we were or what a big help we were, a picture of our volunteers at your event, that's something that I would probably share than pushing your post into our global network of 40,000 people that follow us on LinkedIn. So definitely being strategic about who you tag in these posts. This is a great way to thank your corporate donors and make everybody feel good.
And exactly how do you do it? You said you type @name.
Yep, you type @ and then like if you wanted to tag nCino, for example, you would type @NCI and then all of a sudden it would pop up that account and you click it and then it would be up.
Do you click it where the link is or do you type it where, because I can see your purple nCino there.
Yep, so these are now hyperlinked. Obviously not on this screen,
Yeah.
but if you were on LinkedIn, you could click this Tatiana's name and it would go straight to her LinkedIn profile. You'd click that, it would go straight to nCino.
Okay.
And when you're actually crafting the message, you're starting off with a blank screen here. You would do @ and then I would type Chrissy, and it will populate what it feels like might be the direction you're going.
Find the right
things
person.
for you, and you can find the right person, include them in the post, and it'll automatically hyperlink.
Yeah.
And it'll
that
find their
person
name in the
or
post, or do you highlight the name and then do?
It'll find them and do it automatically.
Once you @ them, it will automatically drive you to the company's
I wish
site.
I could do a live demo, but
Yeah.
it'll be
I know, I'm
when
like,
you're on there.
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
be
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm seeing two things here, and I'm not a LinkedIn, I mean, a total novice. And so it seems like there is the corporate page of nCino, and then you're also recommending that nCino employees like you use your LinkedIn profile to bounce the business or promote the business. So, so then like when that relationship might end, you do it for your next job, and then you constantly are remaking your LinkedIn page to use it to promote your job. Your current job. So it's not as much about promoting you in your life of work life or something. So this is kind of eye-opening for me. I didn't think about using it this way.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is very much a professional network, so people generally are sharing about their jobs, their promotions, where they're moving. Like, it's where I go if I want to see if someone got a new job at a new company. But when you're at an organization, whether you're a volunteer or you work at that organization or something, you tend to talk about the place that you work. Now, if you, an individual, went and Chelsea, God forbid, left nCino and went somewhere else, I would probably start to see posts about her new place of employment, and that does happen. But while you're at that organization, while your employees are, we tend to think of our employees as ambassadors of our cause. And that's why we do a lot of training with our employees, because the message that comes from an individual is so much more powerful than what comes from the corporate account. I post on nCino all day long, and I get, views and likes and things perform well or not. But if someone like Alice or Chelsea or someone in our organization who has different connections, a different audience, post something, that testimonial, what they post, is a lot more powerful. People trust individuals more than they trust corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a key rule in the development world for
Yeah.
sure.
So I think thinking about your donors, thinking about your employees, thinking about your volunteers, if you can get them to share your content, I mean, obviously that's like the number one goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, thinking about them and having to kind of empower them, whether it's sending them the image that you created or from the event, or sending them the link that you want them to share with some suggested copy. We do this all the time. Thinking about activating those people is a great way, and making it easy for them too.
Yeah, another feature of the LinkedIn is where, from being the human that is promoting nCino, I love to go into somebody's personal LinkedIn, and it'll show you if you have mutual connections, and that just opens the door for, I'd love, let me talk to this person. If they're employed here, you can kind of see where they're employed, if it's an organization you want to partner with. I don't know what the narrative might be there, but it's really cool how small the world really is. And LinkedIn makes it even smaller because you're able to tap people on the shoulder virtually in these strange times, and start that conversation, whether it's a future employee or it's an organization you want to partner with, or you just need more information, or heck, to your point earlier about inspiration on how they're doing certain things. I love that, and it comes with your standard profile on LinkedIn, and opens up a lot of doors.
Did you have a question?
It's so big that I just want to mention it, and maybe we're gonna have a meetup or something, but just about how you train your staff, and do you have some sort of contract about standards, ethical boundaries, things like that?
Yeah, we just have a very short do and don't list, and as a publicly traded company, our don't list is don't share material information that could influence the stock price, don't badmouth anybody, don't get us in trouble with the SEC, but we do try to keep it give them as little limitations as possible, because we want people to be authentic. We don't want everyone to get on, post the exact same thing, and sound like a robot. We want people to have their perspective, feel like individuals, have fun with it. So we try to give them minimal, just don't break the law and you'll be fine.
But always be a human.
We have a social media policy that I can share with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have one. It's just so hard because we're public media. You really have to. Slam
Yeah.
down the wall.
Yeah, you probably have a couple different.
One thing I was gonna say too, I'm pretty sure I remember that if say nCino wants to share something, they could tag we're really excited, Wells Fargo just came on board, yay. But you couldn't say we're really excited about Alice Cox secured that deal with Wells Fargo. You couldn't tag as a.
We could, yeah.
You can?
We can tag individuals.
Okay. Can all businesses?
I think so, yeah.
I feel like I was something I ran up against in the past.
Yeah, now you definitely can, because when we have speakers at events, I'll tag the speakers, or I'll tag Wells Fargo or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's on some settings. So not necessarily with LinkedIn, but like my Facebook, you can't post on my wall, you can't tag me.
Oh, well, yeah, that's, yeah.
That's my mother-in-law right there, so.
And
I'm
then-
just gonna be real transparent on that.
The other thing is, if you as an individual or a company tag someone like nCino, then I have the ability as corporate nCino to like or reshare or comment. If you just write the word nCino and it's not tagged, I don't have that ability to do it. It like limits what I can do. So like sometimes someone will write a great post and they'll be like, great day at nCino, and I'll be like, I wish I could share.
What if they like hashtag nCino?
That doesn't work either.
Ah.
It has to be the @ symbol
Okay.
tag. Yeah.
Good to know.
I learned that maybe a year ago, so.
Well, I think most of us really haven't used LinkedIn for
Yeah.
this kind of purpose before, so this is really awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I mean, it is really powerful. You can do a lot with it. It's a lot better than it used to be too. Like, there's been a lot of leaps and bounds with how the platform works and how people use it. Microsoft bought it a few years ago, and I think it's really changed a lot. Never thought I'd spend more time on LinkedIn than Twitter, but here we are today.
Yeah, same. I mean, like I said, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I never want to dream of somebody leaving nCino, but recently there was an employee who had more than made his mark at nCino and decided to go off and do a nonprofit. And the beautiful, like, short, digestible paragraph is owed to nCino, but also like where he was going and allowed him to do all of that. And now here he has established himself as the face of his new nonprofit. All of his connections have seen that, and I'm gonna like it all the way through. We want the best for him, but I share that because I always viewed it in that lens of it's so corporate. It is so like I don't know what I can and cannot say. It didn't feel like me, and it's definitely had more of a personal approach in my experience last year.
Yeah, for sure.
So key takeaways that we hope that you get from this is use this to connect with your colleagues, your partners, your customers, prospects, and again, the O2 employees, totally in my world. Promote your events, your resources and stories with the biggest impact for your audience. Utilize it to share your wins, your needs, and your calls to action, as Chrissy mentioned earlier. And always a big proponent of personalize the content that you reshare, just adding your own personal flair and why it's important to you and why it's worth resharing. Helps people click into it and kind of go down the web of the click trail that I know we all kind of fall victim to when we're on social media, and make it work to your advantage.
And that's it for us this morning. Yeah, Isabel.
I have a question, if that's okay. Sorry, just diving right on into the Q&A.
Sure, love it.
So we, at the Historic Wilmington Foundation, we're not generally that controversial. But it doesn't really come with the territory. But there was an instance during the Black Lives Matter movement. We came out and said that we supported the removal of Confederate statues and placing them in a different context. It was pretty radical. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
However, some people were less proud of us. So we got some pushback, and I think we weren't really prepared to handle it, I'll be entirely honest, because it's just we're normally not a controversial organization. Most people are like, yeah, save the old buildings, sure. So in any case, how do you manage that? We had, and it was just a couple bad apples, you know, and some of them were just blowing up our posts about this, and we didn't know whether to delete the comments, because the comments they didn't even come across as sane, you know, they were just really belligerent. And then we didn't know whether to respond. It's just been hard. I think the one area where we get into some controversy is specifically around like Black history and honoring that, and some folks feel threatened by that somehow. So
well, I'm so glad that y'all took that stand. That was amazing. I remember watching that happen and feeling really proud of Wilmington, and your organization in particular. I would say, when it comes to something like that, there's some people who are obviously just like trolling you, or they're not there for a conversation. They're just there to be jerks and try to get their point across. If it's a clearly unhelpful, violent, profanity, like if it's a really just awful comment, I would be okay with deleting it myself, because it doesn't meet your community standards. It's an easy way to say that. If it is something that is more well-reasoned, even if you disagree with that person, I'm in favor of leaving that comment stand and maybe having a reply that you've like even if it's the same reply, like this is our stance, something from your policy, something respectful. Because even if you're having disagreements, having meaningful conversations is good. Deleting every negative comment is bad because that's going to create another controversy that you don't want to deal with. But yeah, I think being open about the community standards that you have, and as long as people adhere to that, then I would say. But yeah, a situation like that is going to be.
You can also turn off the comments. And you can make a statement from the organization that this supports our mission, period, and turn off the comments. And it's on them. If they're sharing it, that says more about them than about your organization.
True. And make sure you have your community standards posted,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you can link to them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like the
Where
rules.
would you put community standards?
It's hard at first to find it. It took us a while to figure that out, in Facebook at least.
Yeah, I would actually, if you can, put it on your website, because that's something you own also, you know, it's a little bit different, and then you are able to own that content, own that message, and then link to that, to your own site.
Sometimes there's an about
Yeah.
the organization that you can just, it's about your organization and you kind of scroll down a little and says, here's our community standards.
That's true, yeah, especially on Facebook, you could say something like, this is a page for community building, we don't tolerate hateful profanity, dumb people. Maybe don't say that, but you know, you get your point across. But yeah, and I know and definitely whoever's monitoring those comments, get them like a coffee and a cake that week, because that's not a great job.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think having those pre-planned, you mentioned it earlier, those pre-planned responses ready, should you receive negative feedback, whether it's that specific incident or another one in the future, just being prepared with that, so it's less of a knee-jerk reaction and more of like a, here's our stance, and this is kind of what it is, we'll take it as it comes.
Yeah, and like at nCino, of course, we have a great PR public relations team, but we know when we have certain news going out or certain times of year, we know we can anticipate the questions we'll get about certain things, and we have really extensive like FAQ documents that we give to the recruiters and the sales team, like if they ask about this, here's what you can say. And we really arm all of our employees with that info so that no one is caught off guard, no one feels like they're like a deer in headlights or says the wrong thing, because again, we have a lot of other things we have to deal with being a public company, so. But it's always a good idea, like if you know something is gonna happen, sometimes you're caught off guard where you don't expect there to be a lot of drama, but if you kind of know you're about to share something or there's some news that's coming out, just creating maybe like an FAQ is a great idea to kind of give to your people.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
One way I started using LinkedIn that I never did before, the food bank, well, 2 thoughts from the food bank were big compared to other nonprofits, and so there's positives and negatives that come with that. 2 negatives that impact us in Wilmington, one is that there are virtually no Wilmington staff listed on our food bank website. And so I will use my LinkedIn page a lot, especially when sending an email to a donor I don't know. I have a version of my signature that has a link to my LinkedIn profile on it. So if they're curious, you know, who is this person that's emailing me, I can't point them to my bio on the website, but I can point them to my LinkedIn profile. And at least it's like, this person is real. You know, it gives context to who I am and why I'm reaching out to them. And that has been really helpful. The other is, you know, our social media accounts are all run from Raleigh. And that's positive and that we don't have to deal with them, but it means they don't look Wilmington very much, and it's really hard to get Wilmington specific news out there. And so corporately, but also specifically in Wilmington, we have teams of social media ambassadors that we use for that purpose. And again,
I'm one of them.
and again, we have
They
to.
feed you the content. It is so easy to
Once a month,
support an
an email goes
organization
out
that
to
way.
those people and says, hey, these are the things that are happening, these are the things you can share, thank you for doing it. And it's been a really important tool for us, and we're, you know, planning to do that specifically. We'll have a very brief period where our capital campaign goes public here in Wilmington. And, you know, already have plans to come up with a very specific team of social media ambassadors for that purpose. But I think about this and think, you know, I've never talked to board members about making sure that we're on their LinkedIn profile. But that could be such a valuable tool to, again, give kind of extra credibility to who we are and of course.
Yeah, and LinkedIn has also like a volunteer section. So like you put your experience where you work, so like a lot of your volunteers I'm sure have day jobs, they might have like, I work at nCino, and then in volunteer I volunteer at the food bank, or I volunteer at Northside Food Co-op, might have that, I have that listed on my LinkedIn and in my volunteer section, so.
So
Just email them to me.
straight to Stacy. Stacy, you wanna share your email or do you wanna play the cape here?
You can send it to me personally. It's stacygeist@warmnc.org. And I'll send them out in the next, like, when I do a recap of this meeting and talk about our next, I'll do an email next week. And I'll include, literally, like, keep it short. Tell me your name, your date, give me the hyperlink to it, and we can share that with all of our friends so we know when to come to your parties.
And we can still share them here while people are here, so does anybody have any announcements? Go with you first.
All right. The Azalea Festival Home Tour is this weekend. After a 2-year hiatus, we are back in action. So it is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If you get tickets, it's for both days. It's our largest fundraiser of the year and allows us to do the work that we do. So if you are short on Azalea Festival plans, please come out. Tickets are $40. They can be purchased online or at any of the homes that are on the tour on the day.
And they look like this.
Thank you. Well, Mary, you had us so.
Oh, okay, I do. We too at WHQR, are excited to have our first real public event, and it's to celebrate our birthday. It's like 38th or something, so, it's a whatever birthday. But we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna get together on the 22nd, which is a Friday night, at High Wire Brewing, which if you haven't been in the Soda Pop District, it's huge. It's gonna be really fun. Cake, free t-shirts, music, just everything. So please come out. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's just a meetup, just come and enjoy yourselves. And then secondly, I have an announcement. The first time since I've been at WHQR in a zillion years, we are opening a staff position in the development department. So, yay, I know, I'm very excited, and I know so many of you are looking for development directors. We're looking for a development associate. It's a great job, it's full-time, awesome benefits, so if you know any people who are, I would hate to say just starting out, but who are just beyond that kind of, or just getting out of the MPA program or anything like that, please suggest it. You can go to our website, whqr.org, it's a little bit down on the right side, and click on that. And I'm starting interviewing right away, so the sooner the better.
And they'd get to work with you, right?
Oh my God.
Yes, and Jeff and everyone else at the station, so.
So another Azalea Fest announcement in my volunteer world. This Saturday at Greenfield Lake Amphitheater, there is an all-day, family-friendly, free music concert that's happening. Gates open at noon. Music goes till 10 p.m. Come on down. You can come and go throughout the day. It's free. It's family-friendly. We'll have beer for sale. We'll have food trucks. And lots of local bands. So if y'all want to come out and support Azalea Festival with a free event, you can do that.
Yay.
Awesome. The Coastal Land Trust is having our Pollinator Palooza next week. Through the week, there will be virtual content shared on our website. And then on Saturday, there will be a pickup of a free mini pollinator garden kit. And so you have to sign up in advance, but you just go, just for the kit, but it's no cost. And you can come to the Coastal Land Trust, we'll show you how to plant it, with a little live demo. It's fun. So anyone that works at a school with kids, or is interested in native plants and flowers and fun things, and you would like to plant a little pollinator kit for your house, please sign up for one. We'd love to give you one for free and see you on Saturday.
Stacy?
Warm is very excited to, after it's been 3 years, we're having our big gala. It's going to be June 10th, and I'm in the throes of planning that. So check out our website. It's going to be Warm Around the World.
Aww.
And I'm super pumped.
So after our special
Also,
program that morning for AFP,
right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds like a great day.
It's been a long day.
I think I brought it last time when I was here, but White Pants Gala is back for Lower Gate for Life here, and this year we're moving the venue out to the hangar at the airport.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we kind of outgrew the dealership where we were, and it's August 27th from 7 to 11.
August 20 what?
27th.
Okay.
Closing our annual chef event at the end of this month. We're really excited. We'll be having Ashley Christensen, Chi Kumar, and Sarah Gruenberg joining us. All of these women are pretty badass. And our either James Beard Award winning chefs and or are currently nominated. So we're thrilled to have them join us. They'll be spending 2 days with us. We have a couple of tickets left to that. Another kind of fun announcement for the day is if you know Glow and you know Judy Gerard, today is her 76th birthday. So if you would like to shoot her an email and text, I'm sure she'd appreciate that and then kill me afterwards that I did this. So if you would like to do that, I know she's been involved with a lot of your organizations and cares about them deeply, so feel free to reach out to her. And
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else got anything? Okay, so we will see you next month, May 4th, at the Harrelson Center.
I'll send out places to park too.
And then in June, we'll be at the Harrelson Center on Friday, June 10th. That's
And
a
then you'll come
half-day
to the
program.
award gala
So-
later on.
Awesome, thank
Too
you
much.
guys.